If you feel like you're still struggling to connect with a purpose, or you might even say a calling, all of us are in that boat some way or another, even when we are really on our path. But here's the thing, the ways that we are conditioned actually show us our calling. Or you might say our pain shows us our purpose. We are talking about going from conditioning to calling, also going from pain to purpose. We actually have all very similar conditioning in a very basic way. And that conditioning is that we're wrong, that who we truly are, is wrong. Now, there's no point in blaming anyone because this message is received regardless. It is the way that we find a path to become autonomous, to actually diverge from who we truly are, so that we can learn about all of the other actions that we're taking. And this is what karma actually is taking action from some place and then coming back to the place, to the set point, and having learned who we really are by learning who we aren't. So conditioning actually provides us a great context for us to step into who we are. And in that process, we also learn about others, and we can develop compassion both for ourselves and for others. So like I said, we all have a very basic kind of conditioning, and that is that we are wrong. How we are, what we naturally are meant to do, designed to do, is incorrect. And that is because when we are frightened as children, especially from the ages 0 to 8, but it keeps compounding after that, but particularly from 0 to 8, we don't have any way to make sense of the world. And so when we receive a shock or any we have a fear response, whether someone intended to do it or not, could have been the sound of thunder from the hailstorm. We have an unconscious belief that whatever I'm feeling or experiencing about who I am right now is wrong because the world is rejecting me or my caregiver is rejecting me. So we all get the message that we're wrong or incorrect. This is conditioning in its most basic form. And so that means, this is why I say conditioning actually points to your calling. Because the ways that we feel that we are wrong are actually pointing to the ways that we are right. We are truly who we truly are is what we're here to create from. And so it points to our calling. And that can also show up in other ways where we feel pain. And that could be from the sense of loss or chaos in our life. Because the loss and chaos is kind of bringing us back to this sense of somehow life is wrong and I am wrong. And those can actually, that's the chaos and the loss can actually trigger a spiritual awakening and bring you into alignment with your purpose. Because when those things happen, we are shaken out of our conditioning, or we are at least offered the opportunity to shake out of our conditioning. And the things that really matter they float to the top. And we're expanded in those moments. So take a moment to, first of all, for the conditioning to calling, to contemplate how you feel yourself in your heart for who you truly are. And even just that question, who am I? Or remember who you are. Saying that to yourself, letting your heart show you who you really are. I had Spirit give me that message several months ago, and I shared that message, just that, remember who you are, with a few people. And every person I shared that with, it was like they were stricken into their own home frequency too. They were like, ooh, it hit them the same way for them specifically, because the way that when I hear remember who you are from that vertical connection directly all the way up to the plane of my soul telling me that, I get a feeling, I get a felt sense, I get a resonance, and then eventually start showing up into different kinds of karma or actions, behaviors, things to do, but it still is coming back to the primary resonance, the quantum resonance with my soul. So remembering who you are, and it is typically the ways that maybe we feel rejected by others or the world, but primarily what it comes down to is how we are rejecting ourselves. Interesting way that we might see that is, I work with human design, And I noticed in my human design experiment as I'm contemplating different aspects of who I am and how I'm designed as is reflected in my human design chart. And I also see this in others, that sometimes when we kind of are presented with a new part of that human design chart, and we feel like annoyed or bummed or disappointed, or we actually feel in rejection of it. Like I'm a reflector. So when I first saw that reflector chart, the reflector chart has no defined centers. And the person who was showing it to me we looked at like two or three other charts, and they weren't reflectors. They had colored in energy centers, and she showed me mine, and she goes, "Oh, you're a reflector." And I was like, what does that mean? I'm not even a person. Like I felt like really, I felt rejected by it, by this information. Of course, I've grown to embrace it and understand how, oh my gosh, that is so actually showing me what I've always been and who I really and truly am. In addition to that, things like my conscious sun, which is like your life purpose. It is the gate that shows you the theme of your life purpose, and that is called the gate of crisis. And I was like, well, that sounds like a big effing bummer. But I love it so much now. I understand what it is actually illuminating. It is the gift and the power and the design to, move through crisis and come out human and compassionate. And I love that so much. And so part of what I recognize I do is I hold the space for people to shatter patterns, which is, I guess, a part of the theme of this episode too, isn't it? So contemplating who you truly are, even just that question. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips to like good question prompts to bubble up how we can figure out what the conditioning is that is actually pointing to our calling. And here we go. 2 questions here. As you ask these questions of your own energy, I want you to take a breath and drop down into your body. We want to not listen to the mind, and that it's really the conscious mind, the ego mind. That is, in human design, it's called the passenger mind. The passenger is not supposed to be driving. And anytime that we're overthinking or we're overanalyzing, it's not actually giving us fresh new information that is our intuition or our intuitive alignment. We want to drop down into our body. And even I know a lot of people listen to things like this while they're driving. So if you're driving, please be sure to stay alert and present with what you need to do, or anything else that you need to do. If you're washing dishes, try not to cut yourself with glass or a knife. So you can multitask a little bit though as you drop down into your body. Take a breath. And from this place, here are a couple of questions, and we're going to start with, what am I most afraid of? Without judging it. And if nothing comes this time, that's fine. You could put it aside. Maybe we need a different space for it, a more expansive space for it. But whatever shows up, let it show itself to you and be curious about it. Now, the second question, we're going to set that aside. We're going to take a breath and drop into our body. What do I want to leave behind on this journey, this life's journey? What do I want to give or leave in this journey? Just notice what those are. Now, those are just tapping you into home frequency. Now, the what am I most afraid of can help us to tap into the things that are most valuable to us. Most valuable to us. So let's say if what I'm most afraid of is being rejected by anyone. Maybe it's your partner or your family or society, or being humiliated, let's say, something along those lines, or rejected. That means that the value of that is being revealed to you is that connection and love and safety in relationship and belonging is of value to you, and that means it's something you're here to provide. One of the times that I asked that question, what am I most afraid of? The answer came up that I'm not going to be able to provide for my animals. So if you don't know me, if we haven't met before, my animals are everything. I'm an animal communicator. They're just everything to me. Strong gate 19 vibes, if you know human design. And I was like, ooh, when it came up, because I wasn't looking for it or expecting it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And by the way, that question and that answer came through probably 2 or 3 months before one of my beloved kitties passed away. He passed away of things that I couldn't control. I realized that I was in the pitch of that because his health was failing at the time. And by the way, the reason I'm mentioning this is because another part of this is that loss and chaos, that kind of pain can help us to connect with purpose. And so as this guy, his name's Barnabas, as my kitty Barnabas passed, that was loss. And he took with him some of that greatest fear that I have because I couldn't take care of him. That was a cycle. That was an existential truth. And so he transmuted some of that for me. And so I did have a great healing and a mini awakening, or maybe a major awakening. I don't know how to count that, quantize that from that loss. And so this is some of the work that we can do, observing how we might be most conditioned, recognizing that that conditioning is actually pointing to who we truly are, and that aligns us with whatever you might think of as a calling, your own calling, your soul calling you. And then, of course, how pain can lead to your purpose because it can help to transmute, and as you live through it, you become even stronger. Now we're going to talk about why all of this is so important to move from conditioning to calling, to move from pain to purpose, especially in the time that we are in. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you want to see more, then of course do subscribe and click the bell so you get notifications for when I'm going live and when I post other videos. Also be sure to check the description because there are all kinds of things going on in courses and services. There's also some free gifts that will subscribe you to my newsletter so that you can get notified when anything's happening on this channel, and of course when I'm doing things like deals, special deals on services and courses. I am so grateful to connect with you. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.